Every single morning, somewhere in this world, two babies are born at the exact same moment. One might be blessed with what we call natural talent, and the other might seem ordinary at first glance. But here's the miracle I've witnessed over and over in my 40 years of watching people succeed and fail. That so-called ordinary baby, armed with discipline, often ends up living an extraordinary life. I remember sitting at a small diner in Idaho, watching a young waitress. She moved with such precision, remembering every order without writing them down, handling the morning rush like a symphony conductor. Someone said to her, "You must be naturally good at this." She smiled and said something that stopped me in my tracks. 6 months ago, I could barely carry 2 plates. I practiced with water-filled glasses in my apartment every night for 3 hours. Talent is like having a beautiful sports car. Pretty to look at, nice to show off, but utterly useless without gas in the tank. And discipline is the gas station that never closes. It's open 24/7, ready to fuel your journey, rain or shine, whether you feel like stopping by or not. Most people, they spend their lives admiring the sports cars. They point at others and say, "If only I had their talent." But they're missing the fundamental truth that's been staring us in the face since the beginning of time. Discipline is the great equalizer. It's the force that turns average into exceptional, dreams into reality. Talent without discipline is like having $1 million in a bank account you can't access. What good does it do you? But discipline is different. It's like having a penny that doubles every day. It seems small at first, almost insignificant, but give it 30 days and watch what happens. The beautiful thing about discipline is that it doesn't play favorites. It doesn't care where you were born, what your last name is, or how many natural gifts you think you're missing. Discipline only asks one question. Are you willing to show up today? And then tomorrow? And then the day after that? The most successful people I've met have in common. It's not talent. It's not intelligence. It's not even luck. It's their unwavering commitment to doing what needs to be done, especially when they don't feel like doing it. That's discipline in its purest form. And the thing about discipline that most people don't understand, it's not about perfection. It's about progression. It's about being a little better today than you were yesterday, because while talent might give you a head start, discipline ensures you finish the race. I believe we're standing at the edge of something remarkable here. We're about to explore why the most talented people don't always win, and why the most disciplined people rarely lose. Because in the end, discipline isn't just about beating talent. It's about becoming the person who deserves success. Talent. We've created this fairy tale around it. We see someone playing the piano beautifully, and we say, "Oh, they're so talented." We watch an athlete break a record, and we whisper, "They're just naturally gifted." But let me tell you something I learned the hard way. We're watching the performance, but we're missing the rehearsal. I'll never forget this young man I met in Chicago years ago. He was what people called a natural in sales. Everyone in his company talked about his gift for closing deals. One evening, after a business meeting, I found him sitting alone in the conference room. Know what he was doing? He was practicing his responses to customer objections. This so-called natural had filled 5 notebooks with different scenarios and responses. He'd been doing this every evening for 3 years. That's when it hit me. We're not seeing talent. We're seeing the results of countless hours of invisible work. The myth of natural talent is probably the most expensive lie we've ever sold ourselves. It's expensive because it robs us of our power. It's expensive because it gives us an excuse to stay comfortable. Society loves talent because talent makes a great story. Oh, we're born with it. Makes a better headline than they worked at it for 10,000 hours. But here's the problem with believing in natural talent. It's like believing in magic. It's entertaining, but it won't help you build a life. I've spent decades watching people succeed and fail. And I've noticed something fascinating. The ones who believe in talent often quit when things get hard. Why? Because they think if it doesn't come naturally, they must not be meant for it. But the ones who believe in discipline, they just keep showing up. They understand that mastery isn't inherited, it's earned. Let me share something with you that changed my perspective forever. I used to think some people were just born organized, born punctual, born successful. Then I started looking closer. You know what I found? The most organized person. I knew spent 30 minutes every evening planning the next day. The most punctual, they had a system where they set every clock 10 minutes fast. The most successful, they worked when others watched TV. Talent has an expiration date. Without discipline, talent spoils like milk left out in the sun. I've seen incredibly talented people hit their ceiling because they relied on their natural abilities. Meanwhile, I've watched seemingly average folks surpass them through sheer consistent discipline. Talent actually works against you sometimes. When things come easily, you don't develop the emotional muscles you need for the tough times. You don't learn how to push through difficulty. You don't build resilience. But discipline is like a faithful friend who shows up every single day, teaching you these crucial lessons whether you want them or not. The world is full of talented failures and disciplined successes. Every city has them. The naturally gifted student who never learned to study, now working a job they hate, while their average classmate who studied every single day runs a successful company. The talented athlete who skipped practice, now watching from the sidelines as their less talented teammate who never missed a training session plays in the big leagues. What we call talent is often just discipline in disguise. And the beautiful thing about discipline is that it's available to everyone. You might not be able to choose your natural abilities, but you can absolutely choose what time you wake up. You can choose to read instead of watch TV. You can choose to practice when others play. The moment you stop worrying about talent and start focusing on discipline, something magical happens. You take back control. Because talent is about what you were born with, but discipline is about what you choose to do with what you have. And that choice changes everything. Because while talent might determine where you start, discipline determines where you finish. And I don't know about you, but I'm far more interested in where people finish than where they start. Most people completely misunderstand success. They're looking for these huge dramatic changes. They want to transform their lives overnight. But that's not how it works. That's not how it has ever worked. Let me show you some simple mathematics that changed my life. If you improve just 1% each day, just one tiny percent, do you know where you'll be in a year? Not 365% better. You'll be 37 times better. That's the power of compound improvement. That's what discipline gives you that talent never will. Take two people. One with tremendous talent who improves 0.1% each day because they're relying on their natural ability, and another with average talent who improves 1% each day through pure discipline. After 1 month, it doesn't look like much. The talented person is still ahead. But by day 100, by day 200, the gap becomes so wide you can't even see across it. Discipline isn't just about working hard. It's about understanding the mathematics of daily actions. Every single day, you're either building momentum or losing it. There's no staying the same. Life doesn't have a pause button. I remember meeting a gentleman in Seattle who built a $50 million company. Someone asked him how he did it. They were expecting some complex strategy, some brilliant innovation. Know what he said? I made 10 sales calls every day. Never 9, never 11. 10 calls every single day for 20 years. That's discipline. That's mathematics. If you read just 10 pages of a good book every day, that's 3,650 pages a year. That's around 18 books. In 5 years, you've read 90 books. Now, imagine sitting across the desk from someone interviewing for the same position as you. They haven't read a single book since college. Who do you think has the edge? The mathematics of discipline are undefeated. They've never lost an argument. If you save $5 a day, just skip that fancy coffee and invest it at a modest 8% return. You'll have over $100,000 in 20 years. That's not talent. That's not genius. That's just discipline plus mathematics. Does the mathematics of discipline work in reverse too? Skip your workout today. It doesn't seem like much. Skip it for a week, you still look the same. Skip it for a year. Now you're looking at a completely different person in the mirror. The mathematics don't care about your excuses. They just keep working. multiplying either your progress or your regress. Success leaves clues, and when you look at the clues successful people leave behind, you'll find they're all simple mathematics. Write 500 words a day. That's a novel in 4 months. Do 5 push-ups every morning. That's 1825 push-ups a year. Learn 1 new word a day. That's a college-level vocabulary in 3 years. The talent someone's born with, that's a one-time deposit in their account. But discipline is like compound interest. It builds on itself day after day, year after year. And just like compound interest, the earliest deposits yield the greatest returns. Everything has a price tag. Everything. But here's the catch. You don't get to choose whether to pay a price or not. The only choice you have is which price you're going to pay. The price of discipline or the price of regret. I learned this lesson in a way I'll never forget. Years ago, I sat in a small office in Chicago with one of my early mentors. He was a man who'd built something extraordinary from nothing. I was complaining about how hard it was to stick to my goals, how much I had to sacrifice. He walked over to his filing cabinet, pulled out 2 folders, and placed them on his desk. "Take a look," he said. The first folder contained his daily schedule from the past 20 years, up at 5 a.m., exercise, reading, planning, working, learning. The second folder, his bank statements showing how he'd grown from nearly bankrupt to financially free. There's 2 folders, he said, show the price of discipline. Now, would you like to see the price of regret? Visit any nursing home and ask people what they wish they'd done differently? That hit me like a ton of bricks. Because the price of regret, it's always higher. Always. And here's what's interesting. You pay the price of discipline in ounces, but you pay the price of regret in tons. The price of discipline might be waking up an hour earlier when your bed feels so comfortable. The price of regret is looking back at a decade of mornings wasted, opportunities missed, potential squandered. The price of discipline might be saying no to that extra slice of pizza, that extra hour of TV, that impulse purchase. The price of regret, that's carrying around 50 extra pounds at your daughter's wedding, having nothing meaningful to show for your free time, working well into your 70s because you never saved. Most people focus on what discipline costs them today. They say, I can't afford to invest that $100 a month. But they never ask themselves, can I afford not to? They say, I don't have time to exercise. But they never ask, do I have time to be sick? They look at the price of discipline and think it's too high without ever looking at the price tag on regret. I've noticed over the years, the price of discipline actually goes down over time. It gets easier. The habits that once felt like torture become automatic, but the price of regret, that just keeps going up. It compounds like a bad debt at a horrible interest rate. You know what else? Discipline has a refund policy. Every single thing you sacrifice today, every comfort you delay, every hard choice you make, it comes back to you multiplied. But regret offers no refunds. There are no do-overs on time wasted, opportunities missed or potential unfulfilled. I remember asking that mentor of mine years later what he considered his greatest achievement. Know what he said? Not his business success, not his wealth. He said his greatest achievement was that he could look in the mirror every morning and know he wasn't living a life of what is. He paid the price of discipline willingly, daily, consistently. You can't pay them both. Every time you choose to pay the price of discipline, you're automatically avoiding the price of regret. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you're choosing to pay the price of regret later. 20 years from now, you will surely arrive. The question is, where? 2 people stand at the exact same starting point today. One pays the price of discipline. The other pays the price of regret. In 20 years, they're living in 2 completely different worlds. Now, what I'm about to share with you is the architecture of achievement. Because after watching thousands of lives transform, I've noticed that unshakable discipline rests on 5 fundamental pillars. Miss any one of them, and the whole structure becomes unstable. Your morning routine isn't just about starting your day. It's about setting the tone for who you're becoming. You see, The most common lie people tell themselves is, I'll do it later. But disciplined people, they don't negotiate with their mornings. They own. If you can't control your morning, you can't control your life. When you win the morning, you win the day. It's that simple. But winning the morning starts the night before. You've got to decide, are you going to be the kind of person who runs their day or the kind who lets their day run them? Goal setting, they think goals are about the end result. But that's not it at all. Goals are about who you become in pursuit of them. When you set a goal, you're really saying, this is the person I commit to being. The goal isn't to write a book. The goal is to become a writer. The goal isn't to build a business. The goal is to become an entrepreneur. Now, here's something fascinating about environment design, the third pillar. Most people try to use willpower to overcome their environment. That's like trying to swim upstream. It's possible, but it's exhausting. Smart people, they design their environment so it carries them toward their goals. If you want to read more, put books everywhere and hide the TV remote. If you want to eat better, stock your kitchen with healthy food and get rid of the junk. Your environment will always win against your willpower. I remember visiting a friend's office years ago. He was one of the most productive people I knew. Know what I noticed? His desk faced away from the window. Too many distractions, he said. That's environment design. He wasn't trying to be more disciplined about not looking out the window. He simply removed the temptation. Accountability. Discipline isn't a solo sport. The most disciplined people I know, they all have somebody watching. They all have somebody they answer to. We'll often let ourselves down before we'll let somebody else down. Why do people hire personal trainers when they already know how to exercise? Because that appointment, that commitment to another person, that investment, it all creates accountability. When you're accountable to someone, your excuses have to face another person's scrutiny. And most excuses don't survive that scrutiny. Discipline isn't about being on all the time. It's about being on at the right time. The most disciplined people I know, they're also the best at resting because they understand that recovery isn't a break from discipline. It is discipline. It's like chopping wood. You can't just keep swinging the axe. At some point, you've got to sharpen it. That's what recovery does. It sharpens your axe. But here's the key. Recovery has to be planned, not random. It's not about collapsing on the couch when you're exhausted. It's about strategically recharging so you can perform at your peak. Your morning routine feeds into your goals. Your goals determine how you design your environment. Your environment supports your accountability, and your accountability ensures you maintain your recovery practices. Miss one, and the whole structure becomes wobbly. You don't need special talents. You don't need advantages. You don't need permission. You just need to understand them and apply them day after day. The creativity people show when making excuses. It's amazing, really. If people put half as much energy into achieving their goals as they do into explaining why they can't achieve them, we'd have a world full of champions. Let's tackle the biggest excuse I hear. I'm just not talented enough. I love this one because it sounds so reasonable, doesn't it? So humble even. But let me tell you something powerful. Talent is the excuse used by the uncommitted to explain away others' success. That's all it is. It's a permission slip people write themselves to stay comfortable. When someone says, I'm not talented enough, what they're really saying is, I'm not willing to put in the work required. Because here's the truth, success doesn't know talent from hard work. Success only knows results. And results come from actions, not abilities. The grand champion of all excuses. I don't have time. This one makes me smile because everyone gets the same 24 hours. Nobody gets more, nobody gets less. The difference is what they do with it. I remember meeting a young mother who was working full-time, raising 3 kids, and building a business on the side. Someone asked her how she found the time. She said something I'll never forget. You don't find time? She was right. Time isn't lost, it's spent. And just like money, you can spend it poorly or invest it wisely. Time not about management, it's about priorities. When someone says they don't have time, What they really mean is, this isn't a priority for me. And that's fine. But let's be honest about it. Let's not pretend the time isn't there. Everyone has gaps in their day. Everyone has moments they waste. The average person spends over 2 hours on social media every day. That's 730 hours a year. Think about that. That's enough time to learn a language, write a book, or build a business. But instead, most people scroll through other people's highlights, then say they don't have time to create their own. Another excuse I hear often is, I'm waiting for the right time. Let me tell you something about timing. It's never right, never. The conditions are never perfect. The stars never align. Successful people, they start anyway. They understand that the right time is a myth. The only time that matters is now. And then there's my personal favorite. It's too hard. Well, of course it's hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it. The question isn't whether it's hard. The question is whether it's worth it. And here's something interesting about hard things. They tend to get easier with practice. But you gotta practice. Every excuse has an antidote. For I'm not talented enough. The antidote is consistent practice. For I don't have time, it's ruthless prioritization. For I'm waiting for the right time, it's starting now. For it's too hard, it's starting small, but starting anyway. The truth about excuses is that they're like a warm blanket, comfortable, but restricting. They keep you cozy, but they also keep you stuck. And at some point, you've got to decide what's more important, your comfort or your growth. You know what separates dreamers from achievers? A system, pure and simple. And after decades of watching people transform their lives, I've discovered something powerful. 90 days is where the magic happens. Not a year, not a month, 90 days. Why 90 days? Because it's long enough to see real results, but short enough to maintain urgency. You can't procrastinate in a 90-day window. You can't fool yourself. The clock is always ticking. How it works. And I want you to write this down. First, you pick one area, just one. Most people fail because they try to change everything at once. That's like trying to catch 5 rabbits at the same time. You'll end up with none. Pick your rabbits. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your business. Maybe it's your relationships. But pick one. Then you define what winning looks like in numbers. Not vague goals like get better or improve. Numbers. If it's health, how many pounds? If it's business, how many sales? If it's relationships, how many meaningful conversations per week? Numbers don't lie. They don't have emotions. They just tell you where you stand. What's fascinating about the 90-day framework? The first 30 days are about establishing the foundation. Most people quit here because they don't see results. But you're not looking for results yet. You're building the machine that will create the results. The second 30 days, that's where momentum starts building. The habits that felt impossible in the first month start feeling natural. You're not fighting yourself anymore, you're flowing. The final 30 days, that's where the transformation becomes visible. That's where people start asking, what's different about you? That's where the compound effect of your daily discipline starts showing up in the mirror, in your bank account, in your relationships. I remember working with a gentleman who decided to transform his health. Know what he did? He took a picture every single day for 90 days. Same time, same place, same pose. The first 30 days, barely any change. Day 60? Small changes. Day 90? He couldn't believe it was the same person. Neither could anyone else. You've got to measure. What gets measured gets managed. If you're not measuring, you're just guessing. And guessing is not a strategy. Keep a log. Write it down. Track your numbers. Not because the numbers matter more than the journey, but because the numbers tell you if your journey is heading in the right direction. Right now, in this moment, something powerful is happening. You're making a decision. Maybe you don't realize it yet, but you are. You're deciding whether to stay the same or to change, and that decision will echo through every tomorrow you have left. I want you to do something right now. Put your hand on your heart. Feel that? That's not just a heartbeat. That's time passing. Every beat is marking another moment. And here's the truth. That heart will beat about 103,000 times per day, whether you use those beats to move forward or stand still. Time will pass anyway. Most people wait for motivation to strike like lightning. But disciplined people, they understand that motivation is a result, not a cause. It comes from taking action, not from waiting for inspiration. They don't wait to feel ready. They get ready by starting. What I want you to do when you leave here today, take out a piece of paper. Not your phone, a real piece of paper. Write down one thing, just one, that you'll do differently tomorrow. Not next week, not next month, tomorrow. Make it small enough that you can't fail, but significant enough that it matters. Maybe it's waking up 30 minutes earlier. Maybe it's making 5 sales calls before lunch. Maybe it's reading 10 pages of a book. Whatever it is, write it down, because written goals have a way of transforming into reality. Then do something that might scare you a little. Tell someone, not everyone, just someone who cares about your success. Tell them what you're going to do and ask them to check on you. Not next month. Tomorrow? You see everything we've talked about today. The myth of talent, the mathematics of discipline, the price we pay, the pillars we build on, the excuses we overcome, the transformation process. It all comes down to this moment, this decision, this commitment. 10 years from now, you'll surely arrive. The question is, where will you be living with the results of discipline or the consequences of regret? Will you be wondering, what if for knowing I did? The choice is yours. It always has been. Talent might determine your starting point, but discipline determines your destination. Remember this? The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. And every single day, you're choosing which one to carry. So let me ask you one final time. What's it going to be? Are you going to continue living like most people, hoping that talent and luck will somehow transform your life? Or are you ready to join the few who understand that disciplined action, taken daily, is the only path to lasting change? The decision is yours, and your life will reflect that decision. Thank you.